In 1957, the first dog to go into space and orbit the Earth was this 2-year-old stray, Laika. Laika was part of the Soviet Union's space program, which used dogs during the 1950s and 1960s to help determine whether human spaceflight was possible. The USSR sent at least 57 dogs into space as part of the program, and while most survived, Laika's death was expected from the beginning. A little context: only small stray mutts like Laika were trained for space, since they were believed to be more adaptable to harsh conditions, and they took up less space. November 5, 1957, Laika sits in a custom-made housing in the research satellite Sputnik 2. The capsule was made to burn up when re-entering the atmosphere. And all of the dogs used for the space program were female, for the simple reason that they did not have to lift their legs to pee, which would have been very hard to do in a cramped space capsule. Before sending Laika into space, the Soviet Union had already sent a few dogs to extremely high altitudes. In 1951, 2 dogs named Desik and Tsigan were sent up to a suborbital altitude of 110 kilometers. The dogs survived this flight. One of those dogs, Desik, was also later flown in a rocket on July 22 of that year. However, Desik and her companion, Lisa, both died when the capsule's parachute failed. They were the first dogs to be flown in a rocket. Anyway, back to Laika. So Laika was supposed to go into space, and there was no way to design a re-entry vehicle in time for her launch, which meant that she would never return home. The Soviet Union built the satellite that carried Laika into orbit less than 1 month after they sent up the world's first artificial satellite on October 4, 1957. Over the course of the space program, scientists frequently developed close bonds with the animals. In a book chronicling the story of Soviet space exploration, one doctor wrote that Laika was quiet and charming, and he had taken her home to play with his kids before launch. I wanted to do something nice for her, she had so little time left to live. The last words that Laika heard before going up into space. "Please forgive us," whispered to her by the Russian biologist Adelia Kotovskaya. When Laika reached orbit, doctors were able to measure her heartbeat, which had risen on launch, and her blood pressure, both were normal. She also got to eat some special food from a container inside the capsule. Laika was supposed to be euthanized with a programmed injection, but after a few hours in orbit, she died, apparently of overheating and stress. After 7 hours into the flight, there were no more signs of life able to be detected from inside the capsule. Laika's coffin, the satellite Sputnik 2, stayed in space for half a year and orbited Earth another 2,570 times, before it finally burned up in the Earth's atmosphere. Besides earning her place in space exploration history, Laika also has a small monument dedicated to her in Moscow. Later in the summer of 1960, 2 dogs named Bars and Lisichka died when their rocket booster exploded during launch. The next dogs were Lakia, Belka and Strelka became the first dogs to orbit Earth and survive. They were launched into space on August 19, 1960, and orbited Earth more than a dozen times before landing the next day. Fun fact, Strelka later had a puppy, named Pushinka, who was given as a gift from Nikita Khrushchev to President John F. Kennedy. And later, other dog cosmonauts in 1960 weren't as lucky. Pkelka and Mushka were carried on the Sputnik 6 launch on December 1, and after orbiting the Earth for a day, they died due to a re-entry error. The Soviets had equipped the space capsule with a self-destructing mechanism, in case it fell into hostile territory when landing. But a technical defect accidentally activated the self-destruction switch, and the two dogs were killed. So, to recap, the next time you get excited about the latest SpaceX, NASA, Blue Origin launch, pour one out for all of the brave space pups who came before us and made it all possible.